Hello there everybody and welcome back to the Security Spot. Today we're going to be starting something new. This is going to be the first episode of a short series that I like to call Framework Fridays. Framework Fridays is going to be about the GRC side of cybersecurity and discussing cybersecurity frameworks. Excuse me. Now, GRC stands for Governance, Risk, Compliance. In short, GRC for cybersecurity is you're making sure that the organization that you are a part of is adhering to all standards for cybersecurity and data protection that are relevant to your location and for different places around the world, this can mean different things. Most countries in the European Union have to adhere to the GDPR law. We'll be going over that in the next episode, actually. In this episode, we'll be discussing the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, a very popular, or at least widely used framework in cybersecurity in America, and possibly in Canada and around the world, because a lot of things do overlap, but this was designed by the US government for organizations based in the US. And this is actually the NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0. This came out in 2024. This is the most recent update. The first one was also widely used. And what does a cybersecurity framework do? Before we jump in, I want to explain that. A cybersecurity framework does the job of guiding the organization to certain standards for security and what it should do to address certain things. You'll see something in here called security controls. What those refer to are things that the organization can control to enhance its security. Now, this frameworks don't have to be followed like to the letter. They set a sort of baseline, and then each organization can modify that to suit their own individual needs. NIST is designed to be used by both small businesses and large ones, like from Apple all the way down to whatever local nonprofit you want to think of. But anyways, now we're going to get into the framework. This is 32 pages, and a lot of it might be boring, but the purpose of this video is to show everyone the content in a cybersecurity framework and to sort of help you, especially if you want to go into GRC or if you're considering it. GRC is the least technical area of cybersecurity, I would say. Between GRC, the blue team, the red team, this is definitely the one that's less about being Mr. Robot and more about understanding business. And what you'll find in GRC is that oftentimes the organization isn't looking for the best security solution. It's looking for one that can suit its needs. And sometimes it'll see a certain amount of risk, and this is called risk appetite. It will just take the risk head on because it can easily recover from that, or well, it's not entirely too damaging. But anyways, let's get into what you came here for. Alright, this is the NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0. The National Institute of Standards and Technology. This is an organization from the US government. and this whole PDF is actually free. You'll notice that some of the frameworks we discuss in this series aren't going to be free to see, but it's good that this is free. And here's the abstract summarizing what it does. It provides guidance to industry, government agencies, and other organizations to manage cybersecurity risk. And look, see, the idea is that this framework is going to guide any organization to a certain standard of security. It's not meant to show you how things should go, because the certainty of our field is uncertainty. You're always going to be up against a zero-day exploit at some point or another in your career that you have no idea what happened, and you have to respond to the attack, no matter how little you know about it. Yeah, and this is, again, just a guide. And who is this for? This is for whoever is responsible for developing and leading the cybersecurity programs within an organization. It doesn't matter if it's a non-profit, if it's some big corporation. If you're responsible for the cybersecurity or for managing risk, you are going to need to at least take a glance at this. And there's other content for this that's on the NIST CSF website. And currently, and it's just discussing what the other versions were called. Here it's just called the Cybersecurity Framework 2.0. Anyways, here we're going to see a lot of content. It won't be too much though. It's designed to help organizations of all sizes. Yeah, I've said that enough, I think. And it's designed to be used to address cybersecurity, but alongside other sorts of risk, because cybersecurity will overlap with financial, privacy, supply chain, reputational, technological, and physical risks. Yeah, it's something some people might not realize. Cybersecurity is also going to include managing physical security, like with, if you work at a certain company or your school does this, you have to have a badge. It gets scanned when you walk in, so that nobody who's not supposed to be opening those doors can't open those doors. Things like that. And it's going to describe what outcomes we want, and they're meant to be understood by a broad audience. You don't have to be some cybersecurity nerd to really get this. This is supposed to be understood by people who do work anywhere from most, if not all, walks of life. The CSF core is a taxonomy of high-level cybersecurity outcomes that can manage risks. The core components are a hierarchy of functions, categories, and subcategories that detail each outcome. And the organizational profiles, which are a mechanism for describing an organization's current and or target cybersecurity posture in terms of the CSF core's outcomes. Then there's CSF tiers, and they're meant to categorize the rigor of an organization's cybersecurity risk governance and management practices. Tiers can also provide context for how an organization views cybersecurity risks and the processes in place to manage those risks. And another disclaimer about how this is describing what the desirable outcomes that an organization would want to achieve, but it's not going to prescribe outcomes and show you how they're going to be achieved, because while it is meant to be broad and guide people, it can't work as a stick to this rigid blueprint for an organization. It's meant to be modified and used by any and all of them. An organization can use the core, profiles, and tiers with the supplementary resources found up here on the CSF website. And the quick start guides, those are going to be important for really using the CSF too. Anyways. First, you want to understand and assess, meaning describe the current or target cybersecurity posture of part of or all of an organization. Then you want to determine gaps and then assess progress towards addressing those gaps. Then you have to prioritize. We can't do everything all at once, so you're going to have to identify, organize, and then prioritize actions for managing cybersecurity risks that align with the organization's mission, legal, and regulatory requirements, and risk management and governance expectations. Then you have to communicate inside and outside the organization about cybersecurity risks, capabilities, needs, and expectations. You probably can't communicate everything outside, but some level of transparency is necessary to stakeholders, and some of those stakeholders are going to be outside of the organization, like customers. The CSF is designed to be used by organizations of all size and sector. Yeah, we went over this. And it should be used in conjunction with other resources. That's important. You can use this with other frameworks, other maybe more rigid ones that we'll be going over later on, like the ISO 27001. Section 2 is going to explain the basics of the CSF core. Section 3 is going to go over profiles and tiers. Section 4 is going to provide an overview of selected components of the CSF suite of online resources, including informative references, implementation examples, and most importantly, the quick start guides. Most importantly, in my opinion, probably not theirs. Section 5 is going to talk about how an organization can integrate the CSF with other risk management programs. Appendix A goes over the CSF core. Appendix B contains a notional illustration of the CSF tiers. And Appendix C is a glossary for the document. Alright. The CSF core. This is a set of outcomes arranged by function, category, and finally subcategory. These aren't necessarily a checklist of actions to perform. These are sort of what you want to achieve, not necessarily how to get there. How to get there might look different for each organization. And here we have the function section. So, govern the organization, cybersecurity, risk management strategy, expectations, and policy are established, communicated, and monitored. The govern function provides outcomes to inform what an organization may do to achieve and prioritize the outcomes of the other 5 functions in the context of its mission and stakeholder expectations. Governance activities are critical for incorporating cybersecurity into an organization's broader enterprise risk management strategy. Govern addresses an understanding of organizational context, the establishment of cybersecurity strategy, and cybersecurity supply chain risk management. It also goes over roles, responsibilities, and authorities, policy, and the oversight of cybersecurity strategy. The identify function. The organization's cybersecurity risks and assets and suppliers are all understood, and this will allow an organization to prioritize its efforts with its risk management strategy and the mission needs that have been identified by the govern function. This function also includes the identification of improvement opportunities for the organization's policies, plans, processes, procedures, and practices that support the cybersecurity risk management to inform efforts under all 6 of these functions. The protect functions are safeguards to manage the cybersecurity organization's risks, and that they're being used. Once assets and risks are identified and prioritized, the protect function supports the ability to secure those assets to prevent or at least lower the likelihood and impact of adverse cybersecurity events, as well as to increase the likelihood and impact of taking advantage of opportunities. And the outcomes covered by this function include identity management, authentication, and access control, awareness and training, data security, platform security, and the resilience of technology infrastructure. The detect function. This is when possible cybersecurity attacks and compromises are found and analyzed. The detect function is meant to enable the timely discovery and analysis of anomalies, indicators of compromise, and other potentially adverse events that may indicate that cybersecurity attacks and incidents are occurring. This function supports successful incident response and recovery activities. Then there's the respond function, which are actions regarding which means that actions regarding a cybersecurity event are going to be taken. And then the recover. Afterwards, after the attack, assets and operations affected by the cybersecurity incident are restored in a timely manner. Alright, and here we have the functions as a wheel. What you see here is that govern is at the center of it all. And if we go back up here, this is meant to provide outcomes to inform what the organization may do to achieve and prioritize the outcomes of the other 5 functions. The govern section is the mission. These other functions are helping to achieve the mission. Think of it like all of these other pieces are supporting this one. And the functions have to be addressed concurrently. Actions that support govern, identify, protect, and detect should all happen continuously, and actions that support respond and recover should be ready at all times and happen when cybersecurity incidents occur. All these functions have vital roles to play in regards to cybersecurity incidents. Govern, identify, and protect are for prevention and preparation concerning incidents, and govern, detect, respond, and recover are meant to discover and manage incidents. And then each function is going to be divided into categories, and then those categories will be divided into subcategories. And now we have the profiles and tiers. An organizational profile describes an organization's current and or target cybersecurity posture in terms of the core's outcomes. These are used to understand, tailor assets, prioritize, and communicate the core's outcomes by considering an organization's mission objective, stakeholder expectations, threat landscape, and requirements. An organization can then prioritize its actions to achieve specific outcomes and communicate that information to stakeholders. Every organizational profile includes one or both of the following. There's a current profile, which is where the organization is at now and what it's doing to achieve each outcome in the present moment. Then there's a target profile, which is where the organization wants to be and what it needs to do to get to that point. And now here's some steps that are meant to illustrate one way that an organization could use an organizational profile to help inform the continuous improvement of the cybersecurity. First, you scope the organizational profile, meaning both the current and the target ones. And then you gather the needed information to create them. Then you actually create them. Where are we at now? Where do we want to be? You analyze the gaps, then you create an action plan to address these gaps, and then you implement that action plan and update the profile accordingly to show where you're at now. And then after that, you'll have to repeat it over time because, again, cybersecurity is something that never ends. And here, it's just going over that. And now we're going to go over tiers. An organization can choose to use the tiers to inform the current and target profiles that we just went over. Tiers are meant to show the rigor of an organization's cybersecurity risk governance and management practices, and they're meant to provide context for how an organization views cybersecurity risks. So what we have here are levels of how good our cybersecurity is. So we have an organization. Let's go back to nation length from that AI video that we discussed. If our cybersecurity at nation length is not very good, we don't take it seriously, or we probably don't do much with it. It's in tier 1, partial. We don't really focus on cybersecurity. It's more of an afterthought for us. Then if we're a little more serious, we belong in tier 2. We're risk informed. We're a little more risk conscious. We're taking things just a little bit more seriously, but we can do a lot better. Then there's tier 3, repeatable. What's repeatable is that when it says repeatable, it means that the cybersecurity practices we have can be reused a lot. There are things that we can keep doing to keep our cybersecurity, our cyber hygiene really high level. Then there's tier 4, adaptive, meaning that this is repeatable, taken to a higher level. As technology progresses, you can still adapt your current cybersecurity practices to the present landscape, the new landscape, and you can still be alright because you're operating in a way that's very cybersecurity conscious, very cyber risk conscious, and you're taking it quite seriously. And yeah, tiers are meant to complement an organization's cybersecurity risk management methodology instead of replace it. The tiers are meant to be hey, so what we have going on here right now isn't very good, or it's very good, or it's somewhere in between, and then it can help an organization go either, oh, we're doing alright, we need to keep doing what we're doing, or oh man, we've really got to fix this. And now these are the online resources. The informative references are meant to indicate the relationships between the core and various standards, guidelines, regulations, and the other content. And then the NIST SP 853 document really goes over those security controls I discussed earlier. We can look into that another time. I probably won't put in this video because it's already longer than I want it to be. And there's implementation examples. This is sort of, so this framework is more of a guide. It's not really meant to show you what you can do to achieve desired outcomes. It's meant to show you what desired outcomes are supposed to look like. But this can provide you examples and action-oriented steps to show you what you can do to get to those outcomes, just to give you ideas. And the quick start guide is pretty similar. It's meant to help more practically implement that. And this is also meant to this is also addressing that we need better communication with cybersecurity, because not everyone in the world works in cybersecurity. If you talk about certain things in cybersecurity, like say honeypots, not everyone is going to automatically know what a honeypot is. If you tell like the CFO of an organization, hey, I think we should set up a honeypot to catch some hackers, and I don't think he would report to the CFO realistically, but he'll probably be like, what the heck is a honeypot? You catching bears or something? He'll be confused. But anyways, yeah, this is just going over the need for better communication. You have to explain things in cybersecurity to people who don't get cybersecurity. It's not a bad thing that they don't get cybersecurity. I don't know how to build a house, and I'm sure that that's fine. Like, I can survive in today's world without knowing how to build a house. And some people can survive in today's world without like a lot of cybersecurity knowledge. There's a baseline amount of knowledge that everyone should have for almost anything, but a lot of stuff isn't really necessary if you're beyond that field. It needs to be explained by those who are in that field. And for cybersecurity, that's our problem. And this is also discussing the need to improve communication. And then this is also talking about what else should happen and how else this document can be used. We went over a lot of this. And then here it's differentiating how cybersecurity risks and privacy risks act. Privacy is associated with the privacy events that arise from data processing. Cybersecurity risks are associated with the cybersecurity incidents arising from loss of confidentiality, integrity, or availability. And where these two overlap are cybersecurity-related privacy events. So, if someone finds your personal information, that by itself might not be a cybersecurity risk, but when it becomes a cybersecurity and privacy risk is when it was stolen in a data breach. When it's stolen in a data breach, it becomes both of these things. And here it's talking about supply chain risks. All types of technology gets interconnected. Some of the greatest hacks, like, I shouldn't say greatest, some of the most infamous hacks in recent history have happened because, like, take the Target 2013 hack, for example. We can go over that in another episode, in another video. I might talk about some of the most infamous attacks, but here, just briefly, the Target hack, like, completely crippled Target, lost them so much money back in 2013, and how it happened wasn't even Target's fault. It was a third party that they used. The third party got hacked, and that gave the hackers an inside door into a backdoor of sorts. Yes, the backdoor, that's the word, my bad. A backdoor into Target systems and just shut that down. And here, this is outlining the functions and their categories. Governance has organizational context, risk management strategy, role responsibilities and authorities, privacy, policy oversight, and the supply chain risk management. Identify has asset management, risk assessment, and improvement. Protect has identity management, authentication, access control. These are more actionable. These are sort of, or at least these two are. They're sort of discussing things you need to do to help protect data. And detect, these are also sort of actionable. Honestly, all of these are kind of actionable. Except for the communication ones, those are more advising. And here it's talking about the organizational context. We've been over a lot of this as we've talked about it. So, I guess if there's nothing else really. Oh, Appendix B. This is supposed to illustrate the tiers that were discussed earlier. Partial. Yeah, we went over this. Yeah. And then this is the glossary. It's meant to just talk about, it's meant to tell you things that maybe you don't understand what they meant and they're relevant to the document. A lot of people, most of you know what a glossary is, I'm sure. But anyways, that's it. Sorry this video also came out longer. I'm trying to start making shorter videos, maybe like 15 minutes max. But it just gets away from me. I'm gonna have to figure out how to set a time limit on this, how to optimize this better. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I think that's where we're gonna call it here. Please comment, like, subscribe, tell me what you think. I love to hear what you guys think. But yeah, thanks for joining on this first episode of Framework Fridays. Come with me next week where we'll be discussing the GDPR framework. Anyways, I'll see you all next time. This has been the Security Spot.